people are not feeling the latest cartoon from the Daily Wire, Mr. Birchum, which is an anti-woke Family Guy clone. On May 12, 2024, the animated adult online series had its debut. You might wonder, who is Mr. Birchum? Well, he's a right-wing Peter Griffin. I saw a Reddit thread that provided the plot summary for each episode. Masculine man, strong, feminine man, weak, stupid. We offend others who are sensitive. In summary, this is the entirety of the show, so sorry for the spoilers, and apparently Sage Steele took Candace Owens' place in the cast when Owens quit or was dismissed from the Daily Wire following a tense period related to her coverage of the Israel-Hamas war. Someone said the Daily Wire really said, politics are ruining comedy. We need to ruin comedy with our own politics to make it even. And I have to agree. Their criticism of woke people for shoving their views down our throats is ridiculous, given that the same folks create a whole television program centered around their own views. I see Mr. Birchum being compared to King of the Hill, but the reason that King of the Hill is successful is that Hank Hill is not portrayed as perfect. There are occasions when his beliefs are accurate, and the episode explains why this is the case, rather than simply telling you to follow my beliefs. On other occasions, Hank Hill is wrong, and the program discusses the reasons for his error. In a way that is reasonable and does not force the issue in your face, it presents a gray area for these kinds of worries. When Hank became unhappy about something, the joke was, Hank's upset by the changing times. In Mr. Birchum, the pun is, he's upset and you should be too. And the thing he's upset about is wrong and should be mocked. This is the obvious difference between Mr. Birchum and King of the Hill, despite the fact that both shows share the same sense of humor consisting of old-school conservative dad living in the changing modern day. Hank is a traditionalist who is resistant to change. He is usually perplexed and dissatisfied, but he is rarely agitated about it. While this is going on, conservative humor is currently characterized by the phrase, things that are different are bad and woke and should be made fun of and hated specifically to own the libs. King of the Hill included a more nuanced approach to politics. Despite the fact that they poked fun at liberals and attempted to humanize conservatives, there were also instances in which they attempted to humanize the liberal point of view. To add insult to injury, there was even an episode in which Peggy got friends with a drag queen who turned out to be a wonderful person. As a result of her overly critical attitude after discovering the truth, Peggy was even criticized for coming dangerously close to abandoning the friendship. You are able to discern that this program will never have an episode in which liberals and progressives are portrayed as anything other than awful, stupid, or both. This is something that you can foresee happening. In addition to that, they continued to criticize conservatives. On the other hand, Hanks' father, who was much further to the right than he was, is portrayed as a sad and abusive tyrant. Hank had no desire to be anything like him, and we even found ourselves rooting for him rather than his father. Moreover, Hank was a character that was likable. However, despite his shortcomings, he possessed a decent heart, a strong moral compass, and a concern for the welfare of others. His more conventional and conservative nature was one of the reasons you liked him, much less so with Birchum. King of the Hill possessed a tremendous amount of heart. It had characters who gained knowledge from one another. There is no such thing as conservatives, good liberals, stupid. I don't think the writers of Mr. Birchum comprehend the fact that protagonists must have weaknesses. There's a simple formula, a prompt that induces an individual to act contrary to their own best interests. This must be completed before the episode commences. Then, the characters attempt to contend with the repercussions of that poor decision throughout the episode. The program concludes with the character learning a lesson and resolving the issue. The characters do not have to change in any way as a result of this. Peter Griffin and Homer Simpson are two excellent examples of this. They are both perpetually self-centered idiots with good intentions. By the time the show ends, they have apologized for any mistakes they have made and tried to put things right. The writing of Mr. Birchum's portrays liberal people saying stupid things, and Mr. Birchum mocking them. Most of the time, Mr. Birchum is not the one who is dealing with the issues. Rather, it is other individuals who are the ones who are causing them. At the end of the day, either someone intended to cause Birchum harm, but was unsuccessful because he is unstoppable. Someone creates a bad situation for themselves, and Birchum solves it because he is so capable. Or someone creates a bad situation for themselves, and Birchum refuses to help because it isn't his problem, and he is full of himself about it. In the first episode, we see a no-nonsense woodshop teacher at an increasingly liberal school. On his way into the school, he meets the new Jedi, Justice, Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion officer. At this point, I knew what I was in for. The Jedi confronts him and eventually tells him to look out. Birchum arrives at the school and is about to start teaching the kids when the Jedi comes in again to say to him that he's banned his safety video and tells him, "No blood on the bandsaw." He then plays a safety video called "Blood on the Bandsaw." The kids complain and Birchum tells them to meet at his house the next day to work on his deck. Which, doesn't he break a few child labor laws doing that? Did he even ask the parents? Anyway, the Jedi films this and reports it to the principal, who then calls for a tribunal thing to, I think, fire Mr. Birchum. The Jedi asks the students to give an account of their time with the teacher and how they felt about him, and most of the students complain a little, but then say how they're interested in woodworking now, which the Jedi tries to ignore. He only encourages the students that have bad things to say about Birchum. Anyways, as a result, he only gets a few days suspension and the episode ends. At this point, I'm like, okay, it couldn't hurt to watch another episode. The second episode, titled "Thank You for Your Meal Service," is about Birchum and his old platoon from his time in the Navy, getting together to try and eat as much food as possible on Veterans Day, taking advantage of the discounts and freebies. They meet Gunderson, who is basically the army version of Birchum, and his platoon. The two butt heads and both want to try and drink more than the other before the day's done. They fight for a while before ending the day at a pub, which only has one more table available. The pair wage a food war at the nearby buffet, where Birchum stages an ambush on Gunderson and his platoon, defeating them. Birchum offers to share the table with Gunderson, and they get to celebrate Veterans Day together. End of episode. If you're following, it also almost makes it seem like he isn't the show's protagonist. Nothing happens to him really in a way that matters. He's more like the antagonist in his own show. People have also compared Mr. Birchum to Stan from American Dad. He's right-wing and resolutely so, pompous in his sense of superiority, and frequently disagrees with left-wing views. The difference is that when Stan makes a mistake, he accepts responsibility and corrects it. Mr. Birchum seems to believe that nothing can ever be his fault, and that he is simply the Gary Sue around whom the show's world must revolve. Funny enough, I really think a program about a conservative older man navigating the changing world as a school teacher could be a fantastic concept. There are cartoons about a conservative man adjusting to a world that is changing at a faster rate than he is. However, if we see it through the eyes of a teacher at a more liberal school, we can see how the world is changing even more quickly than he does. There are a lot of stories you can tell if you add some heart and make it a both sides can learn from each other situation, instead of just pushing people's emotions like they clearly want to do. But this isn't it. It's simply catering to an audience that would accept anything that says young people are bad and weird. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications. It helps the algorithm or something. Thanks for watching.